This is Beyond Perception, where it's all about breaking out of limited perception of life and waking up to our human nature, our true self, and to our inherent creativity. I am Simon Rilling, and I have the true pleasure today with my guest, Mikko Revonniemi. Hopefully I got that right.
Perfect.
Mikko is a Finnish entrepreneur who is interested in individual and collective well-being and balance. He has previously founded the wellness brand Four Sigmatic, which is now a global success, selling mushroom coffee around the world. With the most recent startup, Tiny, he is aiming to provide holistic tools for balanced life. Mikko has lived in Asia for almost 10 years before moving back to Finland, his home country, which he absolutely loves. And he is interested in understanding the internal world of the self, his and others, but then also the external world of the society. And he spends plenty of his free time to make sense and understand the world. And therefore, welcome, Mikko. And I looking forward to make some sense of the world together today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, as I've been saying in the introduction, you are very curious and interested and in understanding and making sense of yourself and the world. Has that always been the case?
Oh, it actually has. Ever since I was a child, I actually had a quite, I would say, serious or difficult childhood. I was molested when I was a child by someone, I don't know who, but when I was 7 years old. And that left a mark. I think I was in my high school, junior high school, since 13 or 12 to 15, 16, I was thinking about suicide almost every week, many times a week. So it was like, there was something inside me that, I didn't know, I didn't feel right. And I was trying to always kind of like find a way to feel better, which probably was the reason I went into health and wellness, which usually people do when they have kind of like internal wounds, then they try to find cures for those, and health and wellness was one of those for me. But yeah, ever since I was a child, I've been doing meditation since I was 13. I didn't know it was a meditation, but I was basically lying on my bed and visualizing a purple light going through my head all the way through to my body, and then just filling my body with the purple light and energy. That's what I was doing when I was a child. So it's been there always. I think it's kind of a nature of mine. And if there is no way to find an answer, or if there is no answers, I will try to find them, no matter what the case is. And that's a good side, but it's also the kind of like a flip side, because I can spend hours or even days just trying to figure out something that doesn't really, have any meaning to my life, but it's just fun.
Yeah, you have been the founder and CEO for Four Sigmatic, which became very very popular very quickly. And from what I've witnessed, it was really about bringing superfoods, especially mushrooms, into the spotlight. Something which has been beyond my and possibly also mainstream's perception for like possibly millennia. And from what I understand, mushrooms, they can be both extremely healthy and potent medicine against disease. Was there something you discovered on your quest and then decided to bring that to the world? Or what was the rationale behind starting the company and also investigating mushrooms? Was that connected to your interest in well-being already? Or?
I think it was a kind of out of luck. I was back in 2005, 6, and 7. The superfood boom in Finland just got bigger. So goji berries, maca powder, spirulina, all these usual superfoods just became very popular in Finland. And then there were a few people who actually started talking about medicinal mushrooms, especially chaka mushroom that grows in Finland. So that was in my consciousness. I knew chaka mushroom, and I was very curious about medicinal mushrooms. And then I moved to Shanghai for just whole another thing. I went there to work in 2010, and I noticed traditional Chinese medicine shops everywhere. They had reishi mushroom, they had, lion's mane mushroom, they had cordyceps everywhere. And because I already knew chaga mushrooms, I was able to put the link between those two, kind of like chaga mushrooms and other mushrooms. So I basically started studying TCM. I bought this really thick book about TCM, and there was like everything from acupuncture to how to recognize your like different disease from your tongue and stuff. So I skipped most of those and went to herbalism. That was the thing that I was most interested in. And I started studying it. I was working in Shanghai and studying this thing. And then I went just, looking for different mushroom farms around China. I wanted to learn more about those. And then back then, 2010, there was probably 2 or 3 medicinal mushroom companies in the world, in the Western world. And the branding was really bad. The price, the quality wasn't really that good. And I thought there was a lot we can do with the medicinal mushrooms. I think that they're very potent, very healthy products, or very healthy mushrooms, and no one really knows them. But even back then, there was already thousands and thousands of medicinal scientific studies about different mushrooms, all showing different properties of the anti-cancer, antiviral, antibacterial, and a whole bunch of things, modulating the hormonal system, boosting the immune system, all these things. And let's just do something about it. And the original idea was to do another kind of like a brand doing capsules, just another pill company. And then me and the other co-founder, Tero, who is now running the company, we're thinking like, how about if we do something else? Like there's enough capsule companies in the world. So let's do something else. And we were just trying to figure out what the form factor could be. And we came up with this kind of like a drinkable beverage. It was first just herbal elixir. Then we got the coffees. Then we had cacao, or like hot chocolate. And it wasn't really a quick success. We started the company in 2011. And the first 4 years, it was basically just, grinding it and almost bankrupt all the time. And we were just trying to figure out where to get the next, revenue or the customers. And it was super difficult until we were already in the US, and Tim Ferriss then promoted us. And then, that was when everything just went up off the roof, through the roof.
Yeah. To be honest, that was also how I got introduced to Four Sigmatic by listening and following Tim Ferriss, and I've been using the products in the past. They're amazing, and you have been with Four Sigmatic quite some years, but then you decided to leave the company. Really?
Well, I didn't really decide to leave, but I was being CEO and a little bit immature, a little bit stubborn, and didn't notice all the signs I had around, like within me and around me, until I got a really bad burnout, like really bad burnout. If someone sent me a WhatsApp message back in 2015, my heart rate went to 170 at least. And I was covering myself with like blankets and pillows and just like didn't want to face the world. And that was the time I just, I had to basically step aside. Before that, I was trying to do everything. I was doing financing, I was doing operations, I was taking part of the product development. I wanted to do the customer service, and then there was basically one area, marketing, that I was leaving for the other team. But I really wanted to do all those things because of my traumas. I felt that I had to do a lot of things, because if I don't do a lot of things, other people don't value me or they don't appreciate me. So it was basically my internal traumas that were basically pulling me one direction until I was basically in burnout and couldn't handle it anymore, and I had to leave. So it wasn't really that I wanted to leave, but now looking retrospectively, that's what needed to happen so that I can actually advance in the next level. That's the story.
Yeah, well, what you're sharing, I mean, it is exactly what happened to me, not exactly in how you described it, but similar experiences after resigning. It came after resigning, leaving the corporate world, that there was this moment where I couldn't, like, I was totally exhausted and just had to, like, I was forced to take a break. And like, how did this experience or being put to this extreme situation change your perspective on yourself or on life, possibly? How, like, did you?
Well, not much really, because like I said, I was stubborn. So right after, I basically founded another company in Hong Kong, because I was living in Hong Kong back in the days at that time, and I just kept doing something new, because I just couldn't accept that I wasn't good enough. So I just, the same traumas were just pulling me to do something again. And then I had another company for 2 years, which basically then went into bankrupt for another reason we can talk later, but then I realized it's like, okay, maybe there is something within me that is, I need to deal with, and not just, basically drown myself into these external things and try to be something that I'm not. And with the second one, what I realized is that there is a limit that anyone can do. But even the bigger thing that I realized, that the reason I was doing what I was doing was because I wanted to get approval from, well, I don't know, from my father, from people around me. There were like certain things that were within me that were from my childhood that were just basically pulling the wires, and I was just being the puppeteer, or like and I wanted to cut those strings. That was the thing I wanted to do. And that was 2007, I think. And I was super tired back then. I just couldn't do anything. So I decided to move back to Finland. I moved to this small, beautiful, beautiful town called Porvoo. I think it's 50 kilometers from Helsinki. It's like medieval town. You have a beautiful wooden houses there. So I was living in one of these wooden houses, having a small plot at the backyard where I was doing gardening. I had a fireplace. I was just, burning wood and just cooling down and trying to learn more about myself and trying to see what were the things that were pulling the strings. Because at that time, before that, I was really good at kind of like justifying or explaining myself things that I was doing that were actually coming from the traumas, or that wasn't actually me, but I was always able to kind of like put those in the beautiful boxes and sell the boxes to myself. Like, if that makes any sense.
Well, it makes perfect sense. And so it was really like spending time with yourself, which helped change perspective.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to do also is just basically at any time I could have a possibility to talk about these things, I would just talk. If a friend asked me like, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, and technically I'm doing well, but then there is a whole bunch of other stuff I can tell you about, like what actually happened to me the past 4 years. And then when I tell people like what happened, they're like, oh my God, I thought I was the only person who was having this kind of issues and the kind of doubts and stuff. Like, thanks for sharing me, because now I feel like I'm not alone. Just like you had similar kind of experiences. So like everyone is having these experiences and no one is talking about them.
Yeah, that's an incredible thing. We carry them with them. We don't want to see it. It's there, and by ignoring it or pretending it's not there, we give it energy, we give it charge, and it governs us. It has power over us. And if you're just like acknowledging it or even sharing it in a conversation, you recognize the other person is actually appreciative and grateful that you're sharing it. Like maybe not everybody, but many. And hey, like I have similar thoughts or patterns. Huh?
Absolutely, and the feeling you have is the energy you give to it is usually shame or guilt. At least for me, those were the feelings. If I didn't talk about these things, then I was basically increasing the shame. Like I have these things here that I'm hiding from anyone else. I'm a fake. I'm a fraud or failure, and I need to wear this mask of success or happiness or whatever. And then the kind of like a difference between the actual feeling and what I was projecting out was creating even more shame to myself. But every time I was being vulnerable and talking to someone else about them, it felt like some of that shame was, you know, just leaving. It was just disappeared. And it felt the same, almost like if I shared to someone else, it helped the other person as well. And they start sharing as well. And then, you know, there's kind of like a positive cycle of vulnerability was, you know, happening.
That's very powerful too. I mean, what I'm getting is that being vulnerable is actually empowering and even helping you to not be vulnerable. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's by being vulnerable, you're actually going to the other side to not be vulnerable anymore.
Yeah, I would say, like, by being vulnerable, you would be less weak. Because I think usually if someone else is being vulnerable, I'm like, oh damn, that person is so strong, being able to tell those very sensitive things about themselves. But then when I was thinking about myself, if I'm being vulnerable, then I'm weak. But that doesn't make sense, that everyone else is being strong if they're being vulnerable and I'm being weak if I'm vulnerable. So then I just realized that maybe it's just my kind of distorted idea about myself, that if I'm actually being vulnerable, then I'm making myself stronger, because it's kind of I don't know how to explain that any better, but that's what it is. There's actually a really good author I recommend to follow, Brené Brown, who's talking about the power of vulnerability. It's like life changer stuff. Really good.
So is this something you like since then continuously, or it became like something normal you're incorporating in your daily life, just being aware of what's really going on and like sharing that with others, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's also well, that's one of the things, being vulnerable. So always just like, if there's something that, you know, just being open to other people, and if there's something sensitive about me, I'm just kind of like willing to share it to other people. Of course, you need to be strategic. You don't want to share certain vulnerabilities to just anyone. It needs to be you know, people you trust, or people who are close to you, or on a podcast. That's that's another thing. But also communicating more, or communicating more specifically, just basically what are your needs, and like trying to always communicate what are the needs I have, instead of assuming that people understand what I want and need. So it's just kind of clear communication. That's actually with the company now what we're trying to do a lot. So we have a small team. We're just trying to have the vulnerability there, because that also creates the trust. The more vulnerable people are, the more they trust each other. And there's actually a lot of studies about this in like different kind of like business situations, from oil rigs to, you know, banking and everything, that when people, even the high level executives, they actually share something vulnerable about themselves, they seem to be more humane, and people trust them more. And then other people will share something vulnerable about themselves back, and that creates the, you know, the increased trust from everyone to everyone. So I think that's a very important thing, and I think that's one of the things that will happen now in the, I think the I would say shift of consciousness, that people will become more vulnerable and start taking off the masks they're wearing and be more honest, be more themselves. And one of the things, if you want to be really yourself, you need to be vulnerable, because that's part of you.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It enables real authenticity, yeah, like being yourself, who you really are, and also recognizing that these ideas are like, I cannot share this, or this is not like socially accepted, or illusions, and they take so much energy, because you're managing kind of a facade, a mask, a certain perception of yourself. And It's
Mm.
it's congratulations to these powerful changes. And I'm curious, you mentioned already that you started, or that you're co-founder of your new company.
Mm.
Did you start this company with a different motivation then, compared to the last startups you um, set up?
Yeah, I think on the surface level it was very much similar. With Four Sigmatic, it was about to democratize superfoods, or more specifically medicinal mushrooms, so that people will know those fantastic, natural, you know, mushrooms that can actually heal people or help healing. And with Timey, what we really want to do is basically bring the holistic tools for a balanced well-being. And what the big picture in that is that, well, obviously it's a dietary supplement company. Right now we could say what we're going to do is sell dietary supplements. And the reason we wanted to go into this industry, with my co-founder buddy Jukka, we were thinking 2.5 years ago already, like, let's do something together, because our values are aligned, and we were having time, from the previous ventures we had. We just wanted to do something together, and we start exploring what can we do. It has to be something that does good for the humanity, either for the planet, or for the people, or for just both, ideally both. And we were just like exploring many different venture ideas and industries, and then we decided, let's do supplement industry, because that's an industry that it's almost like a wild west. You have a hundreds of thousands of companies selling all kinds of shit that you don't know what they're actually selling. There's no regulation. Everything looks more or less the same. Mostly they are not fun, and mostly people don't know what to take. It's just difficult place to be if you're a customer, but it's a really lucrative place if you're a business. And we wanted to bring some honesty, some transparency there, or we want to, since we haven't launched yet, so we want to do it. And well, that's where we're coming from. It's basically wanted to create slightly like significantly better products than anything else in the market, but we also want to be completely transparent, where the ingredients are coming from, why are we using exactly these ingredients. We want to bring better way of using the products, and we also want to well, essentially our products have a much higher bioavailability than the regular capsules, because of the technology we were using. And if I give you a short kind of like a business pitch, I'm just gonna improve my where I'm sitting, having my pitch form. No, but like basically what we are doing is in the first phase we will have 3 different products. One is focus, which improve your cognitive abilities. The second one, which is sleep, improves your sleep, obviously. And the third one is immunity, that improves your immunity. And the product itself is microencapsulated powder. And that means that it looks like powder, but at a microscopic level, the active ingredients are encapsulated inside the seaweed shell. So the seaweed is basically protecting the active ingredients from heat, oxidation, from stomach acid, and it masks the taste. So you can put this powder, say focus powder, which normally would taste hideous, you can put it into coffee, and it's more or less neutral tasting. When you drink it, all the active ingredients go through your stomach acid into your small intestine, where it opens and get absorbed. Whereas normally capsules, many of the ingredients like probiotics usually get destroyed by stomach acids. So it's slightly better. Actually, it's a lot better way of consuming them. So we think like it's not what you eat, but what gets absorbed. That's what matters. And the name Taimi is actually Jukka's, my co-founder's daughter, who is disabled. And one of the reasons we decided to do exactly what we're doing now is because a few years ago, Yukan and his partner, they took Taimi to functional medicine doctor to see if she has any kind of nutrient deficiencies, and she had so many that the doctor recommended 17 different supplements, so a lot. So basically, no one really knows what is going on with Taimi. Jukka and Sara has taken her to many different specialists, from neuroscientists to whatnot, and no one knows. It's a mystery. So they're trying everything. Like, maybe this work, maybe this work. Let's just try something. And they're like, maybe the nutrients is one of them. And like figuring out that there is a lot of deficiencies, and she would need to take 17 different supplements, but she can't even swallow one pill. Like, it's impossible for her to swallow pills. So that was one of the reasons, like, can we find a solution for this? And we did. So that's kind of covered, and maybe this same solution work for others as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. We met on the Biohacker Summit in Helsinki,
Yeah.
I think close to, or a bit more than 1 year ago. And one of the things, I mean, especially with Yuka, I had a longer conversation, and what I really sensed, I felt that you mentioned it before, values are important to you, and principles seem extremely important to you, and not just a lip commitment. When you share the story about the reason why you started this company, it makes even more sense. And I read on your company page that your purpose is to balance people and the planet. And I have that was something which popped in my head, because I've participated in many sales trainings, funnel trainings, presentations, seminars, and a common strategy is to produce free content to create trust, so that people, your clients, come back to buy your product then. And if you really look at it carefully, you start recognizing that the free content is actually not free, because the cost of producing it is incorporated in the calculation from the beginning and then paid back by the future clients who buy your product. So in a way, you could say it's not a genuine giving, because there's an expectation tied to it, and therefore it's a form of manipulation and intransparency, and which most of us might not even recognize, because we're so used to like being conditioned and manipulated subliminal messages and advertisement, etc., and that like perceive it as genuine giving. And that and also because we don't have another reference, we're living in a negatively competitive society, where it's, you could say, money or profit over people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And also our intuition, like it's in a sense deconditioned, or we like socially engineered to not have that accessible and being able to sense those things. And we just think, oh, okay, that's normal. And that just like, I was thinking about those things when I looked into your approach. I remember the conversation, and what I felt. It felt that your message, and I read. I think I have to look it up on your page. I read something that that you're not about like primarily selling. Of course, you have a product, but you're also educating and generally like want to help people. And when I read that, it was not just an empty phrase to me. Like when I see or hear that, and like in other companies, there's like, okay, like it's the message to get me buy your product later. It's like to hook me, like to throw on the hook, and a form of manipulation. It's not like genuine, and that really stuck me with you, and that's also why I wanted to invite you to be a guest on this podcast, because that's something I sensed, and I'm regaining my intuition a bit, but that's another story. And so I would love to hear your thoughts on this, and also about your values, and we know a bit of why they are so important to you, and how you structure business around like having this ethical foundation or a set of values, and how are your considerations around these things? That I would be really curious to hear a bit about that, if that makes sense at all. Maybe it doesn't. Like,
yeah, it makes sense. Absolutely. And I remember when you were talking with Jukka at the Biohacking Summit, and obviously every time someone is talking with Jukka, after that they're like, wow, those people are doing something from heart, because that's where Jukka is coming from. Our common friend, Paul, he actually once said, like, if there is a living saint, that person must be Jukka. The saint must be Jukka, because he is always coming from the heart, which is really beautiful. And we always try to think how we can do things better. And since we are living in capitalistic society, obviously we are bound by the laws of the society. We need to generate revenue. We need to make profits. But for us, we don't think that profit is the end game. It's not that we want just profit. We think more like profit, and the revenue and profit is the blood of the company. Just like without a human couldn't survive without the blood, the company cannot survive without the blood. And that also enables us to do things. And we're always thinking how we can do things better. And what you were talking about, like, you go website and you get this free ebook. It's like, it's not free, it's content marketing. Most likely what they are telling you is stuff that makes you want to buy the product, which is, I understand it, that's how it goes. And marketing, I think it was a Bill Hicks, if you know, the stand-up comedian who passed away, I don't know, in the 90s. He just said, like, in one of his sketches that the marketers are from devil, or like from evil. It's like they're doing devil's job. And technically, if you start thinking about it, that's technically what they're doing. They're trying to make you buy stuff you don't really need. And they try to make you want stuff. And that's what marketing is. Like, most stuff we have in our houses, in our lives, is stuff that we don't really need, but we want. And we created the need or the want came from somewhere. And it was some clever marketers who came up with the cool idea to sell you something, and you bought it. So that's and obviously also we need to do marketing. And we always try to think, how can we do marketing as consciously, and so that we're not just trying to make you buy stuff you don't need. One of the things because we were going to be a D2C company, so it means we sell only through our own website. So we're not selling any retailers, it's only our website. So we can basically then manage what the customers or the future customers are seeing and what's being told to them. One of the things is, like, on normal website, when you scroll on the product page and you go there, like, at buy now or add to cart, we're trying to play with different things. How could we make this happen so that, like, before you go, for example, buy the sleep blend, there's a pop-up or something happens that disrupts the buying sequence and tells you, like, here you have 10 ways you can improve your sleep without buying anything. Like, you don't need any supplements. You can do things for free. All you need is time, money, not even money, time and effort. And you're covered. Like, 90% of the sleep issues could probably be solved by not using cell phones in the evening, not watching TVs or laptop in the evening, like dimming the lights, doing some breathing exercises, taking a cold shower. I don't know if that helps, but it could. Exercising enough, these basic things, the same things that, improve your focus and improve your immunity or improve your whatever, are the same things that improve your sleep. And if we only did these things, like eat healthy food, lots of vegetables, varied vegetables, these things, if we do those, we wouldn't need the supplements. But obviously, on top of that, because of the monoculture of the agriculture that's been using fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides for, I don't know how many, like 50 years, 60 years, those are killing the soil. So the soil is depleted from nutrients. If the soil is depleted from nutrients, then the plants we are growing are depleted from nutrients. And if we eat those nutrient depleted vegetables, we are not getting those either. So then there is a cycle where if the soil is dying, then the plants are dying, then the humans are dying. So, well, supplements are not the solution, but it can be the bandage for now. So we can get some nutrients so that we can at least be a little bit better. So we have a functional brains and hearts, so that we can actually trying to figure out how we can actually fix the bigger issues, which is the system that is flawed. I would say the whole system is basically created to extract value, extract money and profit. Whatever system you're looking at, it's basically extracting profit one way or another, and usually the outcome is it's killing something else. Either it's killing the tree, killing the soil, it's killing the waters, it's making people in a very dire situation, in poor conditions. And I think that's the bigger picture we actually wanted to do. I don't know if I actually answer your question, but that was the rant I had for now.
Yeah, it is very different to what I know or what I've been seeing. And a question pops up. What about if your company grows, if other employee, I don't know the size of your company yet, but if you have more employees and also external shareholders, do they share this vision? How do you ensure that your vision or this people over profit is not corrupted, or is it that it's like in the DNA of your company? Because I would say it's not normal. Yeah.
No, that's, if you have an answer to that, I would love to hear it, because usually when anything grows, it tends to corrupt. And that's one of the things we're trying to figure out, how we can ensure that things won't corrupt. I think one good example was the samurai period in Japan, where it's like a good examples that actually lasted for was like 500 or 600 years. And it was the same system that was running there, and the same values didn't corrupt. But if you look at any Western society, they usually corrupt within 100 years. There's actually this study, I don't know if it's a study, but this former 2-star US general, US Army general, who started analyzing different empires in the Western Hemisphere, or the Western countries, everything from Roman Empire, the British Empire, to Ottoman Empire, and all of those. None of those last more than 250 years before collapsing. So the Roman Empire grew and collapsed and became Roman Republic. And that collapsed before 250 years and became like Holy Byzantine and Holy Roman capital of Byzantine, and those collapsed. And then there was the Ottomans, and there was a British Empire. And every time the circle was the same. So first you had the kind of like a pioneers who founded the place, or after some kind of like unrest, they reformed it. And then you get the age of enlightenment, you get the age of scientism, you get the age of this and that, until at some point it was all the time it was growing and getting beautiful, and the body of knowledge was increasing, until at one point it started becoming corrupt. And all of a sudden, before 250 years, they always collapsed. And none of those lasted more than 250 years. And the last age was called Age of Decadence. And usually in every empire, they had the certain things happening. One was that the people start listening celebrities for important decisions. And the second was that chefs became superstars. If that sounds any familiar, like Hell's Kitchens and Master Chef and, you know, Iron Chef, and what do we have? And if you think about, we can go briefly, the US, which is now 244 years old country. So it's 6 years from that 250-year cycle. And well, we can look where it is. So, but my point is that it's, every time something grows bigger, it tends to corrupt. And the Japanese, the samurai period, they had some kind of formula to, you know, prevent that happening. And they never really corrupted, but, you know, other, you know, forces came and, you know, destroyed it.
And do you know about this samurai formula? What made them different to any other society or group?
I'm not sure, but I would say one of the things could be that they didn't have their values just written, that our value is honorary, but they actually told those values in the form of stories. Here's a story how someone would behave in a situation, and those stories were told to, you know, disciples, so people learn the story, and then they can mirror the story when I have a situation. Oh, this situation is exactly like that situation, so I should do this way. But if you have only like, our value is, you know, freedom, well, that's only a word. And if you think about what words are, they're nothing but throat noises that we attach a meaning to. That's a word. There's a sounds coming out, and we have a meaning to it. So basically, if you know English and someone speak English, you can't not understand it, be without understanding it. You always understand it after you have learned it. So, but still, it's nothing but sounds. And even though, say, the word freedom, we kind of know what it means, but the actual meaning inside your head and inside my head is very different. What freedom is to me is different than it is to you. Actually, better example with this is, say, God. You know, there's been a lot of times, because I'm rather spiritual person, and there are people who sometimes come to me, not anymore though, but say 5-6 years ago, they come, oh, so you believe in God? So do you really believe in God? It's like, okay, well, that's a good question. But before we go there, let's kind of like synchronize our understanding of what God is. And then the other person is like, well, you know, it's a guy who is sitting on a cloud with a white beard, you know? Well, if that's your definition of God, then I don't believe in that God. But if I tell you my definition of God, then we can discuss about that. And if that makes any sense, you know? So even if we look at the whole global situation in the world right now, you know, people are fighting over political and ideological matters. But I do believe that if we only synchronize the meanings behind the words and concepts, most people would be agreeing on everything, because everyone at the end of the day wants to have safety, peace, love, and joy. That's what basically most people want to have. Then there is a small minority who wants to have power over other people. Those are usually the sociopaths and psychopaths. But basically everyone else wants to have joy, peace, love, and, you know, beautiful concepts like that. But then we start fighting over some minute ideological concepts, and then we get lost into that sea of concepts and words and start fighting over each other about stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yes, makes total sense. And a lot of these things I've been reflecting and thinking over the last months quite a bit. One of the things I came to realize that the big problem of the society is that we're believing in moral relativism, that there is no absolute right or wrong. Like good is what's good for me, like wrong is what's wrong for me, but there's no absolute definition, or there's no definition of like what is right or wrong. It's very subjective to like each single one. And one of the personal discoveries, and then I shut up because it's about you, is
no, I would love to hear about your story as well.
Is natural law, like laws of the universe or mechanisms governing this reality, but then also in that context, a discourse about what is morality, what is ethic, what is right or wrong. And in the end, it's pretty simple. Wrong is to harm someone's property, and my property is, like, first of all, is my body. Yeah, so I have the right to decide to take drugs. Yeah, like it's my body. Like nobody can prohibit me from like even taking something which damages myself. That's my right. It's because it's my body. Like I have the right over my free will, like what I want to do, as long as I don't harm someone else. It's like so coercion of will is a wrong. It's not right. Yeah, to forcing someone to do. And then also I have a right on, like, of truth. Like if someone is lying to me, like that's something wrong, because this is distorting my reality. Like and of course also violence, etc. It's a harm of my property, my body, and also the producer of my work. It's my property, and those things are really, they are at the foundation of a human existence, but it's not been taught. It's nothing we're really thinking about consciously, other than like, for example, like people like you. And so I'm really inspired, and thank you for sharing your perspectives and your wisdom and experience, and also for starting Tiny with the set of values. And if we look at like, I mean, health is one of your key interests, and you're interested in the big picture of things and trends, and also to look at the roots instead of the symptoms, from what I understand. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions in our society about, like, for example, health or well-being, or the big issues we have as a society?
If we start from health, it's usually people start becoming real dogmatic about what's right and what's wrong. About the thing, like there's a one, say for example, diet, that it's right diet, and if it works for you, then it must work for everyone. But everyone's body is like, even though humans are mainly the same, we are still very different. It's basically the same but different. um, um, for example, I used to live very much on vegan diet, mainly vegan diet, but I know that every time I have high quality meat, especially organ meats like liver, my vitality goes up. It just goes, it's crazy how much energy I get, how like my skin looks better, everything. It's just like, with me, meat, and especially organ meats, work really well. But then there are some other people who, if they eat meat, they feel really sick, and they feel lethargic, and they can't function. Their brains are not functioning. So there's no one diet that works for everyone. And it's another thing is also that what works for you right now may not work for you anymore in, I don't know, 1 year from now, or even a week from now. So I think the most important thing we should do is always listen our bodies. And that comes to the next point, which is we have mainly outsourced our health to external experts. They can be doctors, they can be nutritionists, they can be whatever functional guide you may have. But the most important expert is the body. So we would need to, it would be very helpful for us to actually become in tune with our body and listen how it feels. if you eat something, how does your body react? That's the best indicator what works for you and what not. And obviously, if you've been eating for your entire life fast food, or like a factory made food, or antibiotic filled meats or whatever, your body is probably full of crap. So you need to kind of like, I hate to say the word detox because it's such a trendy word right now, but basically clear the toxins, clear the stuff out, start eating real food, healthy, clean food, whether it's even organic is not anymore always really organic, because that has already become like such a big, um, um, industry, in a way that you have such like huge food corporations are basically trying to find loopholes from the organic regulations, that they can still say it's organic, but it doesn't really mean it's any more good. But like, say, if you in Switzerland, biodynamic, like in Germany, it's a huge thing. Like that's, I think Germany, Austria, Switzerland are probably one of the best countries in the world to eat real clean food. The biodynamic movement has been really big over there, and you can actually have some nutrient dense food there. So if people would be eating food like that for some months, they would feel much healthier. They would be more in tune in their bodies, and they start actually noticing like, oh, when I'm eating this carrot, it doesn't feel that good to me, but the turnip makes me feel really well. So I eat more turnip now and less carrots now. So it's kind of a I think that would be the most important thing, take back the authority to ourselves from the external experts. They are useful also. Like, there is a place for doctor, there's a place for nutritionists, but they shouldn't be our gods on decision making when it comes to our own health. They're more like a consultant.
Makes perfect sense. Would you say that each single human has the ability to sense those things, to know what's good for ourselves and what's not? Because if you look at, I don't recall the exact numbers, but especially in the US, and my wife is from Mexico, I would say plus 2/3 of the population are overweight, and that would imply that there's maybe a disconnect in what is really good for oneself.
Yeah, that's true. And then I think in the bigger picture, if we're not talking about only the more systematic issues, I think there's a lot of things that are upside down in the world. In the food industry, you can see one of the organic label or organic certification is one of the good examples, that if you want to sell clean organic food, then you need to apply super expensive organic certificate to have it, and you basically need to pay to say that this is certified clean. But if you want to fill all kinds of additives, all kinds of unhealthy, toxic ingredients in your food, you can do it for free, and you don't need to mention it anywhere. And I think that should be upside down, like exactly the opposite.
So that there's almost a structural incentivation to
it should be so that the default should be healthy, clean food, and if you add any kind of shit, toxin, additive, then you pay for it. Okay, well, now I want to add this toxin here, but you need to pay for who you're going to pay it. But you just, obviously it needs to be a good organization who makes care of whatever the systematic thing is going well. But anyway, you pay for it. If you add something else, then you pay extra. That's how it should work. Not so that if it's difficult to do anything clean.
So it's completely distorted. What's good is what's bad, and what's bad is like it's all that's good. And one of the things I read in one of your articles is that, regarding supplements, just 20-something% of what is supposed to be in the supplement is actually in this supplement in terms of real ingredients. That was something which made me scratch my head when I read
Yeah,
those
there was that was one
things.
specific study made by the General Attorney of New York,
Mm,
who took randomly some herbal supplements from different companies in the US, and they analyzed them, and roughly, I think it was roughly 40% of them
mm,
had no ingredients what they claimed they had. They have, some of them, instead of having some kind of a herbal supplement, they had soybean powder, they had rice powder, or they had even houseplant powder. So instead of having the supplements, and that's because the industry is not regulated at all. So it doesn't mean that everything in the supplement industry is bad. Obviously, there's a lot of good companies who are doing great job and they have wonderful products, but there's a lot of people who just want to make money,
mm,
and they're just selling really low quality, or even, you know, products that may be very unhealthy for you. And if you don't know which one are which, then, well, then you may actually pay for hurting yourself. And that's one of the things we want to do with time. We want to basically, raise the awareness of, that you don't need external experts. Well, it's good to have, every now and then, if you're really sick, then Western medicine can help you on many things. They're really good on certain things, but it's good to know that there is some systematic biases there as well. Um, if you use supplement, like if you have some issues, first, there are many things you can do yourself for free. If you use supplements, then be careful which supplements you're using. And even some of the good companies, which I think like really good supplement companies, are using quite strong ingredients that may kind of like wreak havoc in your system. Like one of the slogan we have, or the purpose we have, for the balancing people and the planet, we always try to go into the balance, like the homeostasis of
mhm,
human being. So we try to use the ingredients we know that are not trying to stimulate your body too much into one particular direction, but give the building blocks so that your body can be in the balance, on the balance. And obviously, I know that there's no such thing as a balance. It's not a static, concept.
mhm.
Balance is a dynamic thing that is changing every day, depending on your own energy levels, depending on your external environment, depending on your internal environment. All these things are affecting what is balanced at that time. And your body is super smart, and it can keep the balance going on as long as you have the right building blocks. But if you go and start using too potent dietary supplements, for example, that balance can go off. And then it's more difficult for your body to actually go back to the balance. One good example is that many dietary supplements for sleep improvements are using 5-HTP, which is actually quite potent ingredient for improving sleep, if like in certain conditions. But what 5-HTP does, it converts into serotonin. And if your serotonin levels are balanced, then that 5-HTP can actually make your serotonin system in balance.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, it's very, and how do you know whether your serotonin levels are balanced? Well, you don't really know it. It's kind of like you can know it, I guess, if you're like super advanced meditator who has gone on very deep levels of your body, and you can actually know that this is my serotonin system that I'm feeling right now, and it's balanced, and but most people don't. I think basically all people don't, unless if you go and take some tests. So we try to stay away from those super potent and stimulating ingredients, and use some more benign ingredients, maybe something like L-tryptophan, that is a precursor for 5-HTP. So if your serotonin levels are okay, your body most likely won't convert the tryptophan into 5-HTP and then serotonin. It can use it for something else. It's kind of like a thinking that the body is a complex system that can, and it knows what to do. It's smarter than any of us. All we need to do is give some building blocks and they will use it wherever they needs to be used. That's the idea, at least.
And would you say, with your experience in the health and the wellness industry, that health is something inherently human, and we like have so many diseases in our society because we are not living like as we're made to made to live? Or is it that like just like disease is part of like the human nature, and we have to compensate with medicine or like other things, because the human design is flawed, and it's like disease is just something which is part of being a human? What's your perspective on that?
I think we are inherently healthy beings that are living in unhealthy society. I mean, we are meant to be in the forest for hours at the end. We are meant to move all the time. I think we are beings who have been walking several like tens of kilometers every day and roaming and moving, and that's how our bodies are built. And now we are living in these concrete boxes. You know, it's just like it's concrete and it's a box, and we live inside those. And then occasionally we go into nature. A friend of mine who said really cleverly some time ago that he doesn't want to live in the cities and go visit nature. He wants to live in the nature and visit cities. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do as well, now that you mentioned it. Like I do want to live in the nature, or at least far away from the city centers, and be active with my body, eat the real food. And obviously we get the pollution from the air, we get the traces of medicine from the drinking water, we get the, you know, stress. We are not meant to live in the stressful environments. You know, stress is something that should be a short period of time, and then the long period of time we don't have them. But now we live in societies and we work so that we are stressed 24/7, or at least 8 hours per day, 5 days a week. And that's not normal for our bodies. That's not how we are meant to be. So, and every time we're stressed, we have increased level of cortisol in our body. And cortisol is very useful for certain things, but if you have it for a long periods of time, then we create inflammation. And once we have inflammation, that creates a whole bunch of other issues, from depression to, I don't know, probably like, I would say a lot of issues can be probably contributed to some type of inflammation in the body. So yeah, I think we are healthy beings who are now surrounded by unhealthy environment. And yeah, there's actually studies made in Japan that was this like just 8 hours. This needs to be fact checked at one point, but like some hours in nature, it could be even half an hour in forest can decrease blood levels, blood pressure significantly. And 2 days in forest can decrease inflammation significantly. So just being in the nature will already heal us. And that's why in Japan, if you go to a doctor and you say you have certain issues, they can prescribe you Shinrin Yoku, which means forest bath. You just go walking, and they have forests specifically designed for forest bathing. And you have people, stressed people, who are just walking there and getting healed. So if we only go into the forest, that would do a lot of good for us already.
Yeah, we have been 2 weeks ago. We spent 1 week in a small village here in Switzerland in the mountains, and then came back 1 week ago. And the difference was really noticeable. I felt different, like being
Mm,
here again after having spent 1 week, like basically in
mm,
nowhere, just like snow and mountains, a few trees there. And also with now, when you were speaking, I had just this picture in my mind that when we speak about those things, or what you just said, that health is inherently human, that's not a common conception. Like if I remember my old environment, being in a work situation, and also when I speak to my family, they have the perception it's just normal to have disease and normal to
mm,
go to the doctor prescribes something, it fixes me, and if it doesn't work out, then well, I have bad luck. Yeah, that's just a human experience because everybody has it, and that's like, and that was so obvious again to me when you were saying that our perception is distorted in a way that we perceive bad as normal. Yeah, like,
mm.
and like don't remember like what the truth or the good in us or within us is actually, and that we are like seem not to like recognize what's in
Yeah, and
our
that,
potential. And then I mean also thinking about why is that the case. And you have an article on your webpage, I think, where you're also talking about lobbying, etc. Like a lot of conflicts of interest, you could say, like influencing possibly the situation in that way that make the perception change. What are your thoughts about these
I
things?
think I think just right now the kind of like a time we're living is, the multinational corporations are it's kind of like the pinnacle of it's kind of like a manifestation of the current consciousness we have. um and what they want to do, obviously they want to make profit. One of the main things or the achievements the few things what we are trying to achieve on personal level in this time is success, and on kind of like a collective level is profit. And then if that's the goal, and you don't really have any moral rules anymore, like we have only um, kind of like legal rules or laws, but we don't really have we don't have so many moral rules anymore.
Mm.
We used to have certain moral rules when we still have kind of like a religions that were kind of like guiding our lives. We had moral rules, but then we basically changed those to kind of like now we only have laws. We used to have laws and moral laws, and now we have only laws, so we can do whatever we want to do as on a almost anything. If it's legal, we can do it. So if lobbying is legal, companies can do it, even though it's wrong. On a bigger picture, well, we don't know what's right and wrong in a really, really big picture, but it seems to be wrong from the humanity point of view that we affect the policymakers in favor for profit and business. It's almost like, well, there's actually my family, there's been some kind of like someone who is very close to me have had some issues with employment here in Finland, and she's been trying to kind of like there's like different departments you need to contact, and that you can get the whether you are getting like the unemployment allowances.
Mhm.
And she's been very depressed, and wants to get some help with that, but because she's quite old, she's not able to get it. She's not because she's not anymore, the system or the say psychotherapy is not able to make her anymore a person who can work, a workable person. So there's no reason to help her. So the system, the society, is just giving some medicine which are not helping. There's ample of evidence that antidepressants are not helping anyone, and that's why people need to change them quite regularly, because they are just not helping. So there's a person who could possibly have, say, 20 to 30 good years of life. The society thinks that this person is not able to anymore function as a person who contributes to society, so there's no reason to make her healthy. And what we're gonna do is give some antidepressants and leave it there. And that's a good example how I believe that the society should be there for people. But now it seems like the people are there for the society. People's only job is to be this kind of like a um, ant who is working for the society and making money. Once the ant is not useful anymore, we can just toss it away. And that's upside down. That's one of the things that is upside down again. And don't remember what we were talking about, but that's something.
What do you think? What can we as a society or as an individual do to change that? Is it possible? Are there things we can do?
I think it's changing. I think it's just like this is I think it's inevitable phase of human consciousness, what we've been living right now. Ken Wilberg has been actually been talking a lot about the kind of like a development of consciousness, and what we are now facing is kind of where the multinational corporations are in basically ruling. But the next stage of consciousness has already emerged, and you can see the manifestation of those in certain technologies. For example, blockchain, I believe, is one of the next level consciousness technologies that that will basically disrupt the current monolithic pyramidic structure of power, and it will decentralize it, and it creates the kind of a trustless society where you don't have any one party or small group of people who are deciding for the millions or hundreds of millions or even billions of people, but it will happen in a decentralized manner on more local basis, but still networked and connected globally. And I believe blockchain is going to be probably a really big part of that. But then there are also a whole bunch of other technologies and a whole bunch of other, probably there's going to be a new type of like social systems. It will happen anyway. I don't know how exactly it's going to happen, but we can already see how this old system is trying to put down the new upcoming emerging technologies. And it's only a matter of time, because you can't, I believe that the old model can't keep the new model down for too long. The two model is too powerful and too useful for so many people, and the old model is very useful for so few people that there's no way that the old model can actually work anymore. And now what we are facing globally, I believe, is the destruction of the old model and the emergence of the new model, whatever it may be, but it's going to be the new and it's going to be better. And it's going to, there's a, they're usually, it's almost like the hero's journey on a collective level, and that we are facing the dark night of the soul, where the old is getting destroyed and the new is emerging. And right now there's a after the old and before the new, there is kind of a small time of unknowing, and that's usually scary. But that's usually the point we need to walk through. And also on collective, individual level, I have seen the same thing happening on many friends of mine. There's been a lot of friends who's coming to me that, oh, I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know, like the world is crazy. I don't know what my values are anymore. I don't know what I should be doing. I don't know who to believe anymore. And that's the dark night of the soul. The old has basically disappeared or got destroyed. And then there is emptiness. And that's scary because no one has really taught us how to handle it. But what's beautiful about that is that you can actually start creating your own future, whatever you wanted to make it. Like before, everything before was given to you. Everything after is built by yourself. So, and that's beautiful. But if people don't figure it out, then it's scary, and people may stay in the limbo and looking for external gurus and experts and stuff. And it took for me at least 4 years in that dark night of the soul before I realized, oh, it's the job that I have to do myself. There's no one else doing it for me. And the same happens, the collective level is the same. We have to do it ourselves. No one else is going to do it for us. And there are technologies already existing, and there are a lot of great people doing great stuff all over the world. And we just don't know it because for example, the media structure, economic machine is in favor for the old system because it's owned by the old system. And in a way, it wants to be saved on a collective level. Obviously, there are people who are doing the things who maybe they may not know what's happening on the like higher level. They can only see that my job is, I'm going to lose this job if this thing is going to go away. So that's scary. I have my mortgage I have to pay, so I'll do whatever I need to do to make this thing work, even if it's against my own personal values, which I'm not quite sure what they are anymore, because all the distorted information that has come to me and has given to me ever since the education system. I entered into the education system, and ever since I've been watching the media feeding me stuff they want us to believe. Like that.
Yeah. It's adventurous and exciting times, challenging, transforming. It feels like it's everything at the same time. And
it looks scary. I think it looks very scary for many people. If you start watching TV, or even if you go to YouTube on almost any channel that is kind of like tackling any current events, whether it's a U.S. presidential election or the COVID situation or whatever, it looks scary. So everything looks scary right now. But I think if we just be able to look a little bit deeper, do some research on our own, and just think about it for a while, everything is still more or less the normal. Obviously not in the US, and not in like certain things are affecting, things are different on many levels, but the life will go on anyway, and things will happen. We will still wake up tomorrow, and things are okay at the end of the day. If we stop watching the current events, we start feeling much better. We can go outside in those places that are not on lockdowns. Can go outside and enjoy the nature, eat the good food, spend time with the close ones, give a hug. I think we should give more hugs in the time when we're not allowed to give any hugs. That's crazy, because hug is one of the best things humans can do. It releases a lot of oxytocin, which is one of the happiness molecules, antidepressant, like internal antidepressant. So we should be touching each other more. We should be hugging each other more, which is exactly the opposite that is said right now. Like having social distancing. Like no way, man.
Like it's a suppression of the immune system. It's like staying at home, no sunlight, movement restriction.
Yeah.
like less social contact. Like it's basically suppressing your immune system, no? If you think about
exactly.
it. One of the hot potatoes. What are your thoughts about the vaccine?
Well, since we go such a hot potato, let's take
Did
a
I,
little bit further back. I think vaccines can be a very good system to stimulate immunity. However, the way we've been using them for the last 40, 50 years, it's not exactly the best way to do it. I believe that human body, the immune system, can be stimulated many other ways. But the technology, the theory, the hypothesis behind the vaccines is actually, I think it can be good. However, I don't think that humans are able to create vaccines that are actually safe. I think what we would probably need is some kind of a quantum computer who is actually able to um, calculate the billions, so unlimited amount of different potentialities of different ingredients, and then create something that is actually good. A human mind is not able to do it. And then there's a whole host of other issues with the current COVID vaccines, and I haven't read too much about them myself, so I don't want to say anything about them in like that regard. But I wouldn't take it. If someone wants to take them, it's their free will. Most likely influenced by opinions about someone else, but I wouldn't take it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mikko, I want to be respectful of your time too. And if there's something you want to share with the listeners here, that's your spot, like a message, and also sharing what you're up to, maybe also like the projects you're involved with, or like, and of course we will add all the resources discussed to the show notes, so people will have access to everything you do. But if there's something you want to send through the world, that would be the time.
Spend time with yourself, like with the internal self. Try to find time where you can actually slow down and listen to the feelings you have in your body. We're all so busy all the time that we're just going from one place to another. So it's very, very important that we can actually slow down and try to understand what are the feelings that are trying to tell us something. What are they trying to tell us, and try to decipher the meanings from them. Let's be more with people close to us, our loved ones. Hug more, talk good things to people around us, say things that you think, tell people what you actually think about them, because we very seldom say how we actually feel about the other people. And it's so important that we tell how much we love others. We don't do it enough. Recently we've just been hating each other on the bigger picture. I think not the most. I think most people are moderate, and what we see in the media and other places are very extremist. But we're just kind of like disconnected from ourselves. We're disconnected from the nature. We are disconnected from each other. We're disconnected from the work we do. It's not anymore something we feel passionate about, but it's just something we do in order to pay our mortgages and live the life we are disconnected from. So let's try to reconnect it with ourselves, reconnect with the nature, reconnect with our loved ones, reconnect with the work we do. And I think we all feel much better that way. I think if you want to know what we're doing, I'm writing articles on Medium, medium.com/Mikko Re, Mikkore. I didn't have anything on Instagram. I think I'm gonna delete the Instagram anyway soon because the social media. But if you still want to follow me over there, it's Mikko_Ltd, like limited, because it's not my real life. It's the limited version of myself, hence why. And the company is called Timey.love. So www.timey.love. So you can find what we're doing. Right now we have only a landing page, which has really not much of anything, but we are launching our brand this March. so in a few months. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff coming over there as well. What else? I think that's all. That's all I have for now.
Yeah, what a wonderful message. Thank you so much. It has been really insightful. Thank you for educating us and raising awareness. And as just said before, I will add all the links to the show notes of this episode so everybody can check them out. And yeah, really thank you for taking the time, sharing your wisdom, your experience with us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hear about the adventures awaiting us, awaiting you, and look forward to the next conversation. Mikko.
Wonderful. I'm thank you for having me here. It's been such a pleasure, and keep doing what you're doing. I think it's Beyond Perception is a wonderful platform.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's all about empowering people to live self-determined, free and healthy lives.